So, every year, leaders from all over the world gather in New York to try and tackle some of the biggest problems we face. But this year, the conversations just felt different, a lot more urgent. Because, as we're about to dig into, the very systems that kind of hold our world together, they're in a massive crossroads. And look, that's not just some snappy headline. The fundamental rulebook for the global economy is being rewritten in real time, thanks to, everything from fractured supply chains all the way to the absolute explosion in artificial intelligence.
So, you might be asking, who's actually in the room for these talks? Well, we're talking over 1,000 leaders, prime ministers, CEOs, heads of major nonprofits, the whole shebang. They all came together with one shared goal, really, trying to figure out a path forward through these massive issues, like the climate crisis and all this global instability.
Okay, so what were they so worried about? What are the really high-stakes conversations happening behind closed doors right now that are going to shape, the next 10 years for all of us? All right, let's break down the 3 big ones.
Okay, first up, conversations from the front lines. Think of these as the key debates that were happening, the real front lines where our future is being hammered out, right now.
So the first huge theme that came up again and again was this idea of an uncertain geopolitical era. Basically, there's just a lot of instability out there on the world stage right now. We're talking shifting alliances, economic policies that are all over the place, and just this general feeling that, the old rules, they just don't seem to apply anymore.
And you can really feel the tension in quotes like this one from Somalia's deputy prime minister. He's making this passionate plea for multilateralism, which, let's be real, is just a fancy word for countries working together on shared rules. The fact that he has to say this so forcefully, well, it tells you everything you need to know about how much that system feels like it's starting to fall apart at the seams. And wow, the warning couldn't be more clear. Here's Victoria Nuland, a former top U.S. diplomat, and she really just lays it all out there. She's saying, if we don't start talking and managing these challenges together, we could literally walk ourselves right back to the brink of a major global conflict. I mean, the urgency is just palpable. Okay, so that's the geopolitical picture. Now let's pivot to the next critical conversation, and you'll see how it all connects. It's what we're calling the energy dilemma, this huge tension between our energy needs right now and our climate goals for the future. So, on one side, you've got energy security. I mean, every country on Earth needs power that's stable and affordable, just to keep the lights on. But on the other side, you've got climate action, this incredibly urgent need to switch over to clean energy to, save the planet. The big question is, how in the world do you do both at the same time?
And this is where it all comes full circle, right back to that global instability we were talking about. As Sumant Sinha, a CEO in the renewable energy space, points out, when things are so volatile in the world, every single country gets nervous and wants to control its own energy supply. And that massive push for security, it's making the green transition, which was already super hard, even more complicated.
And of course, you can't have a big global meeting these days without talking about the elephant in the room, AI. We're talking about building trust in AI and how to handle its rapid, world-changing rise.
I mean, it's really hard to overstate just how massive this is. Listen to Joel Kaplan from Meta. He says it's going to be the biggest technological shift of our entire lifetimes. And a revolution that big, it absolutely demands a whole new rule book to figure out how to balance all that incredible innovation with, safety and security.
But here's the other side of that coin, and it's super important. Helena Lirant from Consumers International makes this fantastic point. Innovation can't just happen in a vacuum, completely divorced from people. Basically, all this progress has to include protections and safeguards for regular folks. It's a huge call for what you might call human-centric innovation.
All right, so we've got these 3 huge challenges: geopolitics, energy, and AI. Now let's zoom out and look at the big, kind of sobering economic reality that's sitting underneath all of it.
So right in the middle of these meetings, the forum drops its latest Chief Economists Outlook. And the headline, wow, it's pretty stark. Get this, a whopping 72% of the world's chief economists are expecting weak growth for the global economy in the next year. I mean, that's an incredibly strong consensus. They're almost all on the same page.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This slowdown, it's not hitting everywhere the same way. You've got places like South Asia and the Middle East where they're expecting strong growth. But then you look at the US and Europe, and the forecast is weak. It's a tale of 2 worlds.
And there's actually a name for this phenomenon. It's called the Great Divergence. And it's a big deal. It means the world isn't just slowing down together. No, it's actually pulling apart.
The economic gap between the richer and the developing countries is getting wider.
And this isn't just some abstract economic theory or numbers on a spreadsheet. It has real-world consequences. As Pedro Conceição from the UN points out, this divergence is actually showing up in human development. Think about that. Decades of progress we've made in closing the gap on global equality, well, they're starting to go backwards.
So, that's the big picture. But what does all this high-level economic stuff actually mean for people on the ground? Let's go beyond the balance sheet and connect these big trends to the real world.
Right. It's the big question, isn't it? How does a phrase like weak economic outlook or the great divergence actually impact real people, real industries, and our shot at solving those huge problems we just laid out?
Okay, let's take AI, for example. It's reshaping everything, right? But get this, only 10% of organizations actually have effective rules in place to govern it. That is a massive, massive gap between how powerful this tech is and our ability to actually control it.
And all this uncertainty, it's definitely hitting the workforce. Take manufacturing, which is such a key part of the economy. A staggering 40% of young workers are considering quitting their jobs. Think about that. We're staring down the barrel of a major talent crisis right when we need skilled people the most.
And finally, let's talk about the price tag for not acting on climate. The economic cost just from health problems caused by climate change, it's projected to hit $1.5 trillion in lost productivity. That's not some far-off number. It's like a direct tax on our future, and it's being fueled by the very problems we're finding it so hard to solve.
So all of this brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. We're all facing these huge shared challenges, right? Climate change, AI, global instability, you name it. But we're facing them in a world that is pulling apart economically and developmentally. So can we really find shared solutions when we're all heading down such different paths? That's the big question the leaders left New York with. And honestly, it's a question for all of us to think about.